For the book that I chose, I picked out Rivers, Nature's Wondrous Waterways by David Harrison and illustrated by Cheryl Nathan. I had my first graders in mind when I found this book. I feel like the science standards in first grade are focused around living things and the resources and components that they need in order to survive. And so when I saw this book, I thought about all of the lifelines that a river can provide, and so how things need water and how things live in the water. And so I just kind of thought of that, and I know my first graders would really enjoy it. And so for my reading strategy that I chose, I am kind of mixing and making it the same thing. I picked out activating prior knowledge and just making connections throughout the whole text by activating your prior knowledge. And so I'll go ahead and model what that would look like. So we have Rivers, Nature's Wondrous Waterways by David Harrison and illustrated by Cheryl Nathan. Head across country in any direction, and sooner or later you will come to a river. That's what the pioneers did. They needed water to survive, and the best source of water was a river. And so here I would pause and just do a simple thumbs up, thumbs down if the students have ever been to a river, seen a river, maybe fished in a river, played in a river, or just anything like that. Just do a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, and then just keep on going. A river meant drinking water, washing, hunting, fishing, farming, trapping, and taking people and their prized goods to the market. So when they could, settlers everywhere built their towns near rivers and lakes. But people aren't the only ones who need rivers. Armies of green trees and plants grow in rows that line the banks to be near water, and too many tiny creatures to count are part of nature's food chain. Bugs eat plants, spiders eat bugs, frogs eat spiders, fish eat frogs. Everyone gets to eat something. And so here I would just do a really, again, a quick question of, can you tell me an animal that lives in the river? And so hopefully they would say a frog, just because it's on this page, but they also might say fish, maybe like a crawdad if they were really onto it, but just like something like that. They could even say insects that like live near the water, and like that would be totally cool. And again, just a simple question and answer, and then just moving on. And when it rains too much and rivers flood, bugs and plants and bits and bites from the food chain in the water help fertilize the fields where the crops will grow. Some rivers flow in wild places where no one goes. Some are deep enough for ocean liners, and some run on for thousands of miles. Where does all the water come from? And so right here I would stop and just ask, does anybody have an idea of where water does come from? Depending on if we talked about water cycle, maybe they would know that answer, and if not, that could be some really great predictions of where they think. Again, and then just keep moving on. How is a river made, and where does it begin? A river begins in the mountains where raindrops fall on high hills, or drops drip from ice and snow, or spill over banks of lakes and ponds. Some drops dry up and return to the sky. Some soak into the soil and seep downhill underground through cracks and holes in the rocks. Some run together down the mountain, from trickles to rolls to streamlets to streams. Those drops grow into a river. A young river is full of energy. It plunges and falls this way and that down the best path. The charging water scoops up dirt and rolls and bounces small rocks as it splashes along. Water pours in from outer streams, and more arrives from springs and caves as the river flows through low places between the hills. The hills and low places make a valley, and all the water in the same valley drains down to the same river. As the river grows, the force of its water gouges a groove called a channel. It pries into cracks and loosens pieces of the mountain itself. It may slice down deep into the rock and carve a gorge or a canyon. And so right here we're getting into a lot of like vocabulary heavy sentences and passages. So right here would be a great time to connect to prior knowledge. So again, going back to see if we've covered that yet, and if not, we could be like, hey, like this is a channel, this is a canyon. Remember when we looked about or read about the Grand Canyon, like stuff like that. Again, just activating prior knowledge. And really, the whole book is just like that. I won't read the whole book for time's sake, but it's just saying again what rivers could do, what streams do, how rivers are built, what happens when rivers flow through, what uses rivers, just a lot of things about rivers. And so I think activating the prior knowledge was a really good one for that, just to, for the children to understand what they know already about rivers and then applying it to this. And so I think a really great activity afterwards would be have the students just think, pair, share real quickly, maybe 30 seconds, not even a minute, and have them tell their little thinking partner 3 things that they learned. And so they would do that. Their partner would do it to them, and so they would together share 6 facts. Hopefully they would be different. And then after that, we would, come back and sit down and either like on the board, maybe on an Elmo, whiteboard, anchor chart, whatever. This would be a really great group activity to do and just say, hey, like, what did we learn about rivers? And so you could, what needs a river. So like that's kind of like we need rivers for drinking water. Animals need rivers for drinking water to catch food. We can go into that, and then we can talk about how erosion and weathering, that's something that happens because of a river. And so just taking time to reflect and synchronize all that information and just process it, and just really comprehend that information and be able to then explain it again. And so when I was looking up different sources to do this, because I think at first I was really overthinking the assignment and I didn't know what to do, but I just think just like doing a connecting thing and activating prior knowledge, and just being able to break the passage down and relate it to the students, like I think that's the most important thing. So from Reading Rackets, they said, this creates a purpose for reading when you're activating that prior knowledge and making connections. The students are allowed to like see why they're reading something about rivers, like why does it matter? Well, it matters because we actually need rivers, and all of our favorite animals like turtles and frogs and all that stuff, like they need rivers too. And then from Southeastern University, this helps them better understand what they are reading, because they do have a prior building block for that, because they do know what a river is. They know that they live by one, or they know that the trail that they go hike with their parents, like they go by one, or they know that fish live in one, or something like that. Like they have a building block to work off of instead of just going in there without anything and not knowing anything. So it just gives them a better just way to understand it. And then the last one I found was the Reading Horizons. This is really maximizing their comprehension at the end, because again, like they do have the building block, they have a purpose for reading, and so therefore they're going to be super engaged. They're going to be just comprehending throughout the entire text instead of me just reading it from page to page to page and just going and not stopping, not asking questions, not making connections. They're going to think about, hey, have I ever been to a river? And then read a little bit more information. Hey, what lives in a river? Read a little bit more information. And just like things like that. And so they're going to be doing multiple checkpoints of comprehension. And then at the end of the story, they can just pile it all together, debrief a little bit with their little thinking partner, and then we can all come back together and do it all together and, share our knowledge that we learned about rivers. And this could be used in a bunch of different ways, definitely depending on what I would be doing in my science curriculum. And we could, because it's full of different nature works and things like that. So it'd be really great for really any first grade at anything, but obviously like it's very science heavy, so you could definitely make a lot of science connections with it.